the Jake Giffin Podcast.
Scott Maderer has done something most people only dream about. He's taken the words time, talent, treasure, and made them sound way cooler than any church bulletin ever could. Scott Maderer is a certified John Maxwell coach, the host of the Inspired Stewardship podcast, and the man who has seen the inside of a debt hole so deep he needed his spiritual hard hat to climb out of it. Now he helps Christians get unstuck, not just with money, but with the mental and spiritual junk that keeps us broke and poor, burned out and bored. And trust me, if you think stewardship is just about balancing a checkbook, Scott's about to wreck that myth in the best possible way. Scott Maderer, welcome to the Jake Giffin Podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Jake. I look forward to talking to you today.
Look, man, I'm going to be honest. When I hear the word stewardship, I think of like an 18th century cobbler that's willing to make you a good deal on a couple soles for your new moccasins for a couple pence, right? So I'm hoping to either get you to stop using the word stewardship and come into the 21st century, or convince me that stewardship is still a cool word.
It's actually still a relevant word. It is an old word. It actually goes back to feudal times, believe it or not. So it goes back to the idea.
I believe it.
The steward was basically when the Lord had a castle. The Lord didn't want to run the castle, right? He's busy doing lordy stuff. You know, he doesn't want to go out there and manage the serfs and do all of that stuff and figure out when the crops get planted, and that was all the busy work. And so they would appoint a steward to do all of that work for him. And so the word steward simply means the person that operates it but doesn't own it.
Yeah.
So if you stop and think about that, right? Well, if you're a employee in a company, you have a stewardship role. If you're the CEO of a company, you have a stewardship role, right? For the shareholders and for the customers and for the employees and all of that. It means anytime you're in a position where you have responsibility for something, but it's something that you ultimately don't own.
Yeah.
So that a lot of times we think of that as money, you know, and it's I tell people I'm trying to reclaim the word stewardship from showing up in church and they're like, hey, we're starting a stewardship campaign. By the way, we're also building a new building and we want you to give. You know, because unfortunately that's usually what it gets tied to. But It doesn't just mean that. It means everything. It means our attitude. It means how we show up as a dad. It means, you know, how we communicate with people. It means our money. It means our time. All the different things that are given to us, in my mind, is blessings from God. But again, whatever language you want to give it, I don't care.
Well,
Stuff that you manage.
Yeah, and human beings were originally, like Adam's original intent was to steward what God created this in this habitat, right? So
that's why we were given responsibility over it. Yeah.
So it's not his garden. It's not Adam's Garden of Eden. It's God's Garden of Eden. And Adam was there to name the animals, take care of the land, multiply it, dominate, and subdue.
Yep. And we're still in that same role today, if you think about it. And now, we've been given different things to be responsible for, but it's the same concept. And so, stewardship is just an old-fashioned word for that, but it is the right word in terms of that's exactly what that word means. You know?
All right. I think you won me over. All right, stewardship. I will start. It's it's not a word that, a lot of, let's say, non-Christian people would think about. Like, it's
Correct.
Not right. So, and I recognize that our niche, whatever.
Both. Either one. Pick one.
All of it.
Right. It's like data. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Well, it's a French word, niche. And I think we should say it like the French would say it, but then it seems pretentious. So I think maybe I'll just say niche, because I'm American.
Either way, it just depends on which pronunciation you want to believe is correct, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you started down this road of coaching people in the stewardship when you came across Dave Ramsey's stuff, right? That's
what kind of started me on the path. Yeah.
Financial university stuff, and you probably early on in your marriage did what we all do in our marriages, and we buried ourselves in a bunch of credit card debt and high interest rate payments, and we've wondered how we were going to get out and all that kind of stuff, right? Then you went on, once you dug out of that, using probably with the Dave Ramsey debt snowball or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
You went on to do the John Maxwell coaching certification.
Mm-hmm.
Was that just to kind of take those two tools together and figure out how to work with people, or?
Different things. So yeah, some of it is just having multiple tools in my toolbox. I've gotten a lot of training beyond what Dave Ramsey teaches, and implement a lot of tools that aren't just what he teaches. John Maxwell's part of it. I'm DISC certified, which is a personality and human behavior kind of certification. I'm certified by a group called Coach Connections. I have a big toolbox.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, as a coach, I think it's valuable to have a big toolbox, because part of our job as a coach isn't to come in as a consultant. And I'll tell you the difference. A consultant is somebody that you have a specific problem and I have a specific solution. And my job is to implement that solution to solve your problem. By the way, there's nothing wrong with that. That's not a bad thing. That's, if I want to learn how to do Facebook ads, I should get a consultant that knows how to do Facebook ads. That's what I do. But coaching is a little bit more in the mindset, the behavior, and the beliefs and attitudes and actions. It's the soft stuff. And when it comes to that stuff, you got to have a really big toolbox, because not everybody is the same. Not everybody's wired the same. Not everybody has the same goals. Not everybody has the same mindset, history. And so sometimes my job is to be like, okay, for you, Jake, here's a good tool, but that tool may not work for somebody else.
Yeah. Well, you're working with you're working with them on multiple levels. You're looking at behaviors, but we don't know oftentimes what makes somebody do the things they do until you understand more of the higher up principles of where they see their identity or their values and their beliefs, those types of things. And it's kind of love what we do in coaching is kind of identifying who somebody is and what algorithms they're running to get the results they're getting, and then kind of
and helping them become aware of them. I think is one of the most important things, because a lot of us have things that are unconscious beliefs or things that are driving us that we're not even conscious of at all. The book that I wrote is called Inspired Living, because I believe that inspiration comes from that introspection. It's when you figure out how you're wired and it, now all of a sudden I can start working on that, because when it's unconscious, you can't work on it. You can't change it.
No, that's true. So bringing it to the conscious level so that people can identify it, become consciously incompetent of it, right? It's like, and then work that in through reps to
make decisions. Is this thing serving me? Okay, good. I want to keep it. Is this thing not serving me? Okay, what do I do to get rid of it? But you have to be conscious to make that decision of this is good, keep, and this is bad, get rid of.
Yeah. Do you see debt as more of a math problem, or is this an identity issue?
It's a behavior and identity issue. It's a mindset issue. It's a habit issue. All of these things. It really is not a math problem. Quite frankly, if it was math, nobody would be in debt. Everyone would be debt free. Everyone would be a multimillionaire. We would have no financial problems, because the math is easy. Putting down a budget and looking at numbers, we're talking 6th grade math, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. It's the math is easy. Yeah. So what's hard about it is all of a sudden it's tied up in who you are as a provider. It's tied up in how you're a parent. It's tied up in how you relate to the world. It's tied up in what your belonging is, what your identity is, what your place in society is. And all of these things are deeper, unconscious kind of drivers. So debt is oftentimes money that you spent to impress people that you don't even know.
What is that identity though for somebody, let's say, who's consistently plagued with brokenness? Like they're in a lot of debt, they're living way over their means, like way over their means. Like is there an identity?
There's different ones for different people, but a lot of them kind of at their core come down to a sense of pride of appearance. And what I mean by that is you're putting on a facade of success, but you're not actually interested in what I would call the sustainability of it or the significance of it behind the scenes. So I'll give you an example. I had a client couple. I lovingly, when I talk about them, refer to them as Ken and Barbie because, and they know I do this, so I have their permission. They don't want to be identified, so they're Ken and Barbie. And Ken and Barbie lived in the nicest house on the block. They were members of the country club. They both had high-end jobs. They drove, he drove a brand new Lexus and she drove a brand new Mercedes. Everything external appeared like they've got it together. They're successful people. But they never entertained at their house. They never invited anyone over. They always entertained at the country club or somewhere else. And the reason why is inside their house, their TV was on one of those old, coffee trays or TV trays, that you would eat TV dinner. And their mattress was an air mattress that they blew up. And they had a couple of lawn chairs that they used to kind of sit on in the living room. They didn't have any furniture. The whole house on the inside was basically empty because they couldn't afford it. And so they were spending so much money for the appearance of success that they weren't able to actually do the things that, honestly, when you ask them the stuff that was really important to them, that's what they were sacrificing. But they were sacrificing it on the altar of pride, arrogance, a little bit of and where did it come from? In their case, it actually came from deep-seated beliefs that they had around what it meant to be successful, what it meant to be a good provider, what did it mean to have these appearances of success. And once they kind of identified that and realized, wait a minute, this isn't really serving me. I didn't go in and tell them to do anything. They suddenly started changing the way they were doing things, and it wasn't, there's no telling involved. Everyone's always like, oh, a coach should tell me what to do. It's like, I don't have to.
You're right.
You'll figure it out. I just need to give you the tools to be able to visualize it and see it. Then you'll make different decisions. So they ended up, in their case, they ended up downsizing the house. They ended up getting rid of the cars and getting some different cars. Still nice cars.
Yeah.
But, but not brand new lease to the gills cars. They ended up moving and, guess what? They ended up with a house that they could entertain in, and they ended up with other things, and they ended up with suddenly doing things differently. And they weren't as worried about looking good. They were actually worried about having the life that they wanted. They got out of debt. They did all these things. All of that happened, but that wasn't the goal. The goal was that feeling of freedom. The goal was that feeling of actually belonging and having that good fit. That's the stuff that allowed them to change?
Was that the shift then? Because they went from this identity of outward appearance, and this is what looks successful, but were their core values then like freedom and
yeah. In their case, their core values were freedom. Their core values were being able to kind of live the way they wanted to. They loved entertaining, but again, they couldn't do that in a real way.
Right.
Now they can. There were things that they actually wanted, but they were blocking themselves from getting them because they were so worried about what everyone else thought. So that's what they discovered is everybody else actually liked them better when they were living the way they wanted to.
Yeah, right. Well, and I think it's an important note to help people understand when we say words like stuck or trapped or whatever word you want to use, this is the idea that if your core value is, let's say, freedom, and you're behaving in the results that you're getting are leading to not freedom, there's an incongruence, and sometimes you don't understand what's happening, right? You just feel like I don't know how to move forward, and I don't know know where to go. And then it takes somebody like you to come along, ask some strategic questions, and then they all of a sudden go, okay, and they have that
epiphany, that aha moment. Yep.
Yeah, man, those are the best moments.
Yeah, that's what I coach for.
Yeah,
I tell people all the time that's as rewarding as anything that you get when you're coaching and you suddenly see them go, okay, I get it, and it's like, and you didn't say anything, like you said. It was really asking strategic questions that uncovers it's not a tell, it's a show. It's really fun when that happens.
Yeah. Well, it's better than the money you earn. Money's good. The money's good too, but that moment is.
The money is what I have to have so I can keep doing it.
Yeah, right.
The moment is what I'm after.
No.
I have to have the money because, I need to keep the lights on and pay for
Yep.
Zoom and all of that stuff. But I really, the money is the tool, the driver for me. The why is those moments.
Yeah, you live
and
for
that's
those.
kind of what we do for the client. We help them get
Mhm.
past the drivers and into the why that's behind it.
Mhm.
Because the goals will take you so far. The motivation and those are things that will take you to a certain level. But willpower, those things, they only take you so far.
Yeah.
Habits and belief, that's what takes you a long way.
Yeah, which is funny because they would come to those same conclusions, those same shifts if they knew the questions to ask themselves.
Yeah.
But most people are asking themselves the wrong questions. Why am I so stupid? Why am I so broke? Why am I so this? Why am I so that? And then, when you ask yourself stupid questions, your subconscious is going to give you stupid answers.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have somebody that's separated from the situation, like yourself, come in, do some preliminary diagnostic questioning, and then kind of dig in, and they go, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
How does shame impact somebody's ability to make good financial decisions? I mean, have you seen people that are just kind of just messed, and maybe they're living in some kind of sin, or they're hiding something, or whatever it is? Does that impact financial decisions?
Absolutely, especially for couples.
Mhm.
You'll have it can happen in singles too, but especially in couples. I've seen somebody exhibiting behavior that what we would call financial infidelity, which is they're not having an affair in a physical or an emotional way, but they're off spending money in a way that they're hiding from their partner. And that shame of I'm hiding something. It could be addictive behavior like gambling or alcohol or drugs or something like that. It could even just be entertainment or I've seen people that are spending money in ways that really aren't, quote, bad, you know what I mean? But because they have shame around it, it suddenly impacts their decision making. It suddenly changes the way they live. And so it's less the thing, and it's more like you're saying, the emotion that's uncovered for them that's causing the problem. And then that usually blocks things like communication. Now we're not talking, now we're not on the same pages. It causes hiding things. It causes all of those bad behaviors that drive people apart instead of bringing people together.
So let's put some meat on that. I mean, let's pretend you got a guy who's just he's going to go see the next John Wick movie, right? And everybody at his church frowns upon John Wick, and his wife definitely doesn't want him going and watching a John Wick movie. That is a problem, right? We don't glorify killing mass people in fantastic fashion. That is right. So let's say he goes and he's going to spend that money. I don't know. It's probably $50 now. I don't know if he has a hot dog or he's going to eat some whatever. So if he hides that, how is that hitting it? And this is just a very elementary remedial kind of thing. But how is him hiding that manifested in his relationships and in his finances? I mean, how is that?
Well, the relationship, it shows up in that he's not going to communicate with his wife and with other people around him. In this case, if there's people that he feels connected to at the church, let's assume, and he's not going to share that with them. And again, it's not even whether or not watching a John Wick movie is a problem. It's the fact that he has to hide it that creates the problem, because that blocks communication, that blocks openness. Now, $50 is probably not going to cause them to go bankrupt, but even $50 may show up somewhere in something that they do want to do, maybe together. It may show up in blocking something else, that's an activity. It could be, I don't know, school supplies for the kids, just picking something. Now, all of a sudden, that $50, because anytime you spend money, there's always what we call opportunity cost. That's a fancy word for saying I can't spend the same dollar two different ways. If I spend money on A, I can't spend that same dollar on B.
Right.
That without going into debt. And really all you're doing with going into debt is you're spending future dollars. Promising future income for today's experience. That's all debt is. Okay.
Yeah.
So any way you slice it, the only way to do that is to hide it. And then I have shame about hiding it. And that shame then affects my communication, and it affects other decisions he makes, because once he's made that decision, it's going to affect whether or not he makes a different decision about the next thing. You know, maybe it's not a John Wick movie. Maybe the next thing is, I don't know, buying a bass boat. I don't know, whatever, you know, it could be a bigger thing. It could be a smaller thing. Doesn't matter. I've already made that decision that I can do things without communicating. I can do things on my own. It's going to reinforce that behavior.
Yeah.
So again, it's not the choice that's good or bad. It's the consequences of the choice and how you implement those. You know, it's so like my wife and I, we weren't communicating about our debt because I was going to protect her. I'm a good man. I'm going to protect my wife. I'm the provider. I'm going to take on all this stress. Made me suicidal. Okay. Which is not good for her. By the way, she's a smart lady. She knew what was going on. You know, I mean, she can look at a freaking bank statement. She's not stupid, you know?
Yeah.
She knew we were in debt. She knew all of this stuff, but I was going to protect her because I'm the good man, you know? And so we have these underlying stories that we tell ourselves around shame or around being the provider, or around being successful, around what it is. And when those stories, like you said, aren't in alignment with what we really want to be, it's that misalignment that creates the shame and the guilt and the fear and all of these other things that aren't fruits of the Spirit.
Yeah. Is there a personality type or a mindset that is especially prone to staying in debt even after they've kind of succeeded in getting out?
It's not, I don't know that there's a particular personality or type. It's more of a mindset. Again, we're back to mindset and behavior. It's when you change the superficial, but you don't rewire the deeper, you have a tendency to repeat the pattern. So there are people that can crash diet to get out of debt. You know, it's the same as, I'm going to get my beach body, right? You know, I'm going to crash diet and get ready for bikini season or bathing suit season. It's the same mindset. It's I'm going to change things short term because it hurts. But once things go back to comfort, well, now I'm just going to go back to old behavior. I haven't actually changed the fundamental habits and behavior. And quite frankly, you know, as far as what kind of person does that, humans.
Humans, yeah.
Yeah, dogs don't usually do it, but humans do.
Dogs, birds kind of avoid that. Have you ever worked with somebody who was just maybe addicted to, you know, some people have this subconscious addiction to drama, right? So it's, you know, it's not that they like the tension or the stress, the anxiety that's in their life, but they don't know how to behave when that's not there. Right? It's like the girl that's attracted to the bad boy and she always gets her heart broken. But then when she finds a good boy, it's just not quite the same.
Not exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. So is that the same with money?
It can be. It can be, you know, there are people that are, and like you said, it's usually not that they like that, but they've wired themselves to see that as normal. And normal is expected, right? It's what it is. And so it is going back to figuring out, why is that normal for you? You know, where is that coming from? Honestly, sometimes if it's bad enough, that's something where we drop out of coaching and now we're looking for a counselor, you know, or a therapist or some other tools that, you know, I don't have in my toolbox, but I can help somebody find them, because it can be something where there's really some deep-seated luggage that they have to unpack.
They got some like really rooted mommy daddy issues that they need to work through.
Childhood issues. It could be something else, but they're carrying, could be a past relationship, you know, using that example of, I've seen people that on their second marriage, there are things that they're carrying over from their first marriage, you know, that now we've got to work through. And sometimes you can do that as a coach. And sometimes it's like, nope, that's deep enough. We need to go a different direction. You know, I still help you as a coach too, but the counselor needs to help you with this other part, because that's pretty deep seated and needs to be uprooted.
Yeah.
But it you know, again, it's a gray, it's continuum. It's not a fixed thing. You know, I've done a lot of coaching where I've actually had counselors that will refer someone for coaching because they do that work of looking backwards and unpacking the past. And as a coach, I'm really good at looking forwards and helping you move forward. And sometimes the two together can be a really powerful tool for people.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you get somebody who really needs to figure out why they have, daddy issues or mommy issues or whatever else, why they're messed, like if you want to know why you're messed up so that you can move forward, that is a good handoff, right? So you can figure out, okay, well,
And
my
some people
dad,
don't need to know the why, and some people do.
yeah, I mean,
You know?
most of the people that I work with don't need to know the why. We're just looking forward because I don't put a big emphasis on the why. Who cares why you're messed up? What are you going to do from here on out?
Right.
And let's reprogram those things.
I can learn from the past. I can plan for the future, but I can only act in the present. So
Right.
where's my energy?
Yeah.
80%, 90% of my energy needs to be on the present. And plan some, yes, absolutely. Learn from the past some, yeah, fine. But most of my effort needs to be on the present. That's the coaching model.
Yeah.
And unless there's a therapeutic issue, that works really well. And most people,
Mhm.
I'm the same way. Very seldom do I actually work with a client that's full blown in that situation. But I have had some clients that I'm working with that because of things
Mhm.
get into that situation, and I'm still working with them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So we look at a lot of behaviors and results from those behaviors. Kind of always, what precedes behaviors are beliefs.
Mhm.
What are there false beliefs that people have about God's provision for their life that causes some debt stuff to
Absolutely.
happen or some
Yeah.
lack of
One of
stewardship?
them, and again, back to stewardship, one of them is that false mindset of this is mine. I
Mm.
own this. And what it causes us to do is to hold on to things really tightly with a closed fist. And the problem with that is, when you hold on to something with a closed fist, stuff can't get out. But the
Yeah.
problem is stuff also can't get in. And so you literally block yourselves off from opportunities and blessings because you're so busy holding on to everything you have, usually out of fear or pride,
Mm.
that you then can't grow in a way that lets you get more, and not more because more is the goal. It's just the natural consequence.
Yeah.
Think about it. People that it's like they're so kind and giving and you just like being around them,
Mhm.
and it's not even that they're giving in terms of money or thing. It's just their personality is such that they're interested in you and your success and what's
Yeah.
going on in your life and that sort of thing. It's a weird dichotomy that what I talk about is kind of this framework of invest in yourself, and that's that self-awareness piece,
Mhm.
so that you can invest in others. And naturally, out of doing that, what happens is you develop influence.
Mhm.
And when you have influence, you're making an impact.
Yep.
So it's this kind of natural flow of get that self-awareness, get that alignment piece, and then look for opportunities to pour into other people. And naturally, the rest of this will come. And
Yeah.
so usually it's any mindset that blocks you anywhere along that journey, and it could be self-inspection. It could be
Mhm.
I'm so self-centered that I can't pour into others.
Right.
Okay, we got to break that down. It could be I don't even believe I'm worthy of working on myself. It could be that kind of mindset. It could be a victim mindset.
Mhm.
One of the things I look for is what I call the P's. This is when people are making things permanent, pervasive, and personal.
Mm.
Example, instead of they failed at something, and instead of saying I failed at, that was a failure or that failed, it's I am a failure. It's I is personal.
Yeah, it's
Now it's not
identity.
only I'm a failure, it's I fail at everything.
You,
That's
you,
pervasive,
right.
And what else? I always fail at everything. And that's
Universal.
permanent. I made it permanent. So
Yeah.
I call those the P's. And when we start doing that to ourselves, it blocks us from going down that pathway
Mhm.
of success and influence and impact.
Is that close hand also kind of like, is that when you talk about, because this is mine and maybe it's scarce,
Mhm.
there's not enough for everybody. And
Yep.
so I
What
need
would be an
to,
example?
it's like a fear. It's like there's
Mhm.
some kind of fear that it's scarce, that God, but that's what you said. I mean, in regards to, it's not ours, right? It's God has everything he needs.
Yep.
And he can provide everything for us. So there is no scarcity really.
It's the difference between recognizing that something is finite and
Mhm.
believing that something is scarce.
Okay.
And those are different.
What's the
Finite
difference?
means I have a certain amount available to me at this point in time. So
Okay.
24 hours in a day, that is a finite resource. My paycheck, that is a finite resource. There is an amount by which I get paid. So finite is, kind of that.
Yeah.
Scarce is when I believe that not only is it finite, but again, it's fixed. If I get more, the only way I can get more is other people have to get less. Or the only way I can get more is if I somehow take it from, it's more of an idea of fear-based. It's that scarcity mindset.
I see.
And finite is real. I mean, yes, you have a finite stuff that you're given at any point in time, but finite doesn't mean it stays the same. But
Right.
scarcity is sort of saying it's going to be the same. It's
Mhm.
fixed in a different way. And so it's a subtle distinction, and it is not obvious necessarily.
No, that's a
to
great
you,
distinction, though,
but
the
it
way
is
that you
different.
laid it out. Yeah, I've never thought about the difference between finite and scarce. I mean, I'm not a scarcity guy,
Mhm.
but so I never really put it in terms like that, but it makes sense. It's like, finite is just limited to what I have available to me today,
But
but
that doesn't mean
scarce,
it has to stay that way.
right.
Yeah.
Scarce is, there's only 5 of these iPhone cases made and I need to,
Right.
get one. That's what marketing is based on nowadays, right? There's only
And a
10 of
lot of it's
these.
false scarcity.
Yeah, it's false scarcity, right? And they put that on, hotels well, I'm not going to do that. But
There's only 5 left.
yeah, there's only 5 rooms left at $30 a night or whatever, and you're like, is there
Yeah.
really? But it's a good strategy to get you to spend outside your
Well,
limits.
I once saw a guy that was providing PDFs, that it was like a downloadable that you could sign up for. And it literally said only 10 left. And I'm going, what? It's like, no,
Yeah.
there's as many left as you want there to be, dude. There's no
Yeah.
way there's only, 'cause
For a
literally
digital
something you could just download,
for a digital product. Let
For a
me say
digital
so.
product.
Yeah, so that's so funny because I've
That's
seen
so
those.
false. It's
I've
like
seen those
horrifying.
too, and you're just going, "What are you doing, bro?" Like, you literally made a digital product that has infinite number to them. I mean, there's
Right.
like that's so
Now,
so.
as an example, though, we have a thing that we do that's for coaches that's called it's cohort based. And we do a lot of one-on-one work. Well,
Mhm.
yeah, that has a limited size. We can only handle because we only have enough hours in the day and enough people available to do so much one-on-one work. Same thing for one-on-one coaching. It is finite again, but it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be a scarcity mindset. It's not a. I don't look at people as a coach and go, oh, if you don't sign up in the next 5 minutes, you got all of that stuff. To me is that's the wrong way to go about it. It's manipulation, not influence.
Yeah, that's mostly just trying to fill up your own schedule and not really thinking about other people. But but you're also you're not gonna coach one-on-one, 50 people a week. That's just
No.
that would be a crazy amount of coaching to do. And
So you can set up systems and processes where you can work with the number of people you want, the way you want, and that could be group coaching, that could be individual Yeah, it's called designing it the way you want it.
yeah,
For me, the difference between manipulation and influence is this. Manipulation is when I use psychological tricks and all of this stuff to get you to do something because it's good for me. Where
yeah,
influence is I get you to do something because it's good for you. It also may be good for me, but it's
right.
good for you. And it's that I still at least got to make sure it's good for you. Otherwise,
Same tools, same tools, different motivation.
Exactly the same tools.
Yeah.
But it's completely different intent behind it.
That's funny. Yeah, that's exactly right. It's just like yeah, that is funny. Scarcity, people are going to get caught up in that. What are you finding now with younger people and their stewardship abilities? Are they still trying to compete with the Joneses down the street? Are they still trying to live this lifestyle that they see on Instagram? What are they trying to do now?
Generally, Gen Z is actually much more frugal and conscious of money than a lot of the previous generations of the last couple, at least, because they've kind of grown up in a different environment where they've seen some things in terms of scarcity and in terms of things going away. Problem with that is, so naturally they have more more frugal and more awareness of it. But again, there's that subtle click between, for some of them, that's a positive thing because that means they're managing it well, they're thinking about it, they're engaged with it. And for others, it's a bad thing because it's fear-based and it's scarcity-based and it's all of that. So it could, the exact same experience can play out mentally for two different people different ways. The result is they do tend to be more frugal and more mindful of money, not always for the right reasons, unfortunately.
Where is the investment strategies when you're talking about being a good steward of the things that God has given us? And right now we're talking about finances, but time and talent is in there too. You focus a lot on that in your work. So just one more question about finances, because I know it's a big thing for some of the younger guys that listen to this podcast, and that is investments, stock market, S&P, whatever it is, 401ks. When you're thinking about stuff like that, what is an ideal percentage of somebody's income that might go towards something like that? Or what advice could you give them?
Well, first off, I don't give investment advice because I'm not a financial advisor.
Fair enough.
Coach, and that literally is a different skill set. It's a different knowledge base. It's a different certification and all of that. So let's kind of back it up and talk about what I can talk about. There is, at the end of the day, we are called to not only steward our resources for today, but for tomorrow, and the tomorrow part is saving and investing. Now, what percentage? It depends, because what are your goals? What's your situation? There's a difference between a single person who wants to remain single the rest of their life. First off, that may change, but it may not. And, the 40-year-old with 2 kids and a wife and a mortgage, and they're going to behave differently because they've got different time horizons, they've got different goals, they've got different priorities. So, when people start seeing, there's, do X percentage of your income and you'll be fine, not necessarily, and this is where sitting down and working with, whether it's a financial advisor, whether it's some of the DIY tools that are out there, and a lot of times as a coach, I'm involved in helping you figure out what questions you need to answer, not necessarily giving you the advice of now what to do with that.
It's going to be It's going to be contextual
because it's contextual. It
is,
absolutely.
I get that. When you talk about time, treasure, talents, how does a healthy view of God's ownership change the way good stewards approach these things?
So a lot of times, it's recognizing that just because that resource is finite and just because it belongs to someone else, I'm still responsible for using it in a way that provides for me and my family, but also for others. I have a responsibility to the wider world. I have a responsibility to other people. And it's kind of developing that servant mindset. And so, for instance, if you have a talent and you're not out there sharing it in some way with the world, you're killing something. You're literally holding something back and unfortunately, a lot of times we're blind to our own talents. And same thing for time. If you're wasting time, and by the way, wasted time simply means time that you're using that's not aligned with your bigger, deeper purpose, your calling. Okay. That time could be better purposed some other way. And so it's coming down to recognizing that because it's owned by someone else, you have a responsibility above your own, to other people and to other things. It's kind of like this. If you were the CFO, the chief financial officer for a major company, and the owner comes in and they go, "Hey, Jake, I need you to write a $50,000 check to this charity." You'd go, "Okay." You'd write the check. It doesn't bother you. Okay. Sure. And you pass the check off, it's done. But strangely, we're all CFOs of our own life, our own money, our own time, our own thing. Same thing. Boss comes in and goes, "Hey, Jake, I need you to take a couple of days off. We're going to give you some paid vacation, but I need you to take those days." You'd be like, awesome. No problem. Happy to do it. Similar reason, hey, Jake, I need you to come in and work a couple of extra hours, but, we're going to do this for you. You'd probably be able to work it out. It's when the boss kind of starts telling you what to do, you respond to it in a different way when you recognize that it's not your resource that you own, but it's the resource that you're managing. And like even that one of, hey, I need you to work some extra hours. When you recognize that priorities and things like that are important, that's when you have the bravery to go into your boss and go, hey, I know you need me to work a couple of extra hours on Saturday. Happy to do it. However, my daughter has a soccer game Saturday morning. Could I come in Saturday afternoon instead? I know people that are not willing or able to have that conversation because they've got that feeling again of that fear of, hey, somebody's telling me how to manage it. So the same things comes with recognizing God's ownership. I don't know about you, but I've been called to do some things by God that I'm like, God, you must be crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. You're asking me to give in a way that I've never thought. You're asking me to spend time in a way that I just can't do it. But what I've discovered is when I shut up and go, boss is telling me to do it, I need to go ahead and lean into this and do it. Man, is this uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It always blesses me. And it also blesses a whole bunch of other people. And that's the part that's really cool.
That's the community aspect. I mean, that's the body being knit together with each of its talents and responsibilities. Because talents are responsibilities, right?
They are.
It's somebody who says, "Well, I don't go to church very often, or I'm not involved in fellowship." You go, "Okay, that's hurt." That's not just first of all, it's selfish, but second of all, that's not how life was meant to be done.
No, we're meant to do it in community.
Yeah, and we're going to see a reflection of that. I mean, I think a lot about artificial intelligence and the emerging technologies that are coming down the road with large language models and artificial intelligence and quantum computing and all those types of things. And I think about that when you have, let's say, ChatGPT as its own large language model. Yeah, I mean, it's smart. But if you could get it to talk to Grok, or you could get it to talk to, other large language models, then it becomes something else. And that's how fellowship, I think, with believers are. It's like, yeah, I'm fine on my own. But if you have that open hand of you teach me stuff, I get to teach you stuff, then we become a mass for change.
And using your AI analogy, that's actually a really good one, because even like when you interact with ChatGPT as an example, and this is actually true of all of them, so I'm not picking on ChatGPT. I could use Grok or Perplexity or any of them.
Sure.
Right now, they're all set up in a way where they have a tendency to want to reinforce what you already believe. They want to reaffirm what you believe. And so they're learning you over time. And it could be the way you phrase the prompt. It could just be from past conversations you've had. Could be from what it knows about you from going out and scraping the web, because it does that.
Sure.
But whatever it is, it kind of knows, hey, Jake kind of leans this way and believes this. And so when he asks me a question, I want to kind of reinforce that belief. Well, hey, if that's a good belief that's serving you well, awesome.
Yeah, right.
If it's not, then it steers you the wrong way. Yeah. And that's, again, it's the same thing. So if instead of just, quote, asking ChatGPT, I then interact with other things, and by the way, I think that it needs to include some actual real human beings, because all of the AI tools do the same sort of thing. You begin to get those beliefs challenged, and you begin to get to re-examine them and go, hey, wait, is this serving me well? Or is this reinforcing a bad behavior or good behavior? And when you recognize that, then you can grow. And so it is that community comes from that diversity, as opposed to reinforcing exactly what you already believe.
Well, and you can ask any of those large language models to argue with you or to take a contrary
do it.
Viewpoint. If you put it in the instructions in your projects, it'll fight with you on everything. It's kind of annoying, but that's why it doesn't do it by default.
and even there, when it fights with you, though, it still sometimes has a tendency to steer you in a way that you already believe.
That's right.
And it really does. And I mean,
Yeah.
they'll openly, if you go ask, the founder of ChatGPT, they'll tell you that, it's how they've set it up. And again, that doesn't mean it's going to be that way forever. AI is changing really quickly. What AI tools we have available in 2 years is going to be wildly different than what we're using today.
Yeah.
But right now, that's one of the reasons, because people ask me, they're like, oh, AI is going to get rid of coaching. It's like, I don't think so. Not today, at least, maybe down the road. But today, it's still, there's too much of the work that you have to do that, quite frankly, is probably the same thing that's blocking you already. You know what I mean? In other words, if you were already able to do that thinking, you would be doing that thinking. You can't teach ChatGPT to think in a way that you don't even know how to think, so to speak.
Yeah, well, and there's probably a sense of the AI part of the coaching thing that we're on a very elementary level. Maybe it can help you with certain things, but it it can't necessarily tell when you're being dishonest or coy about stuff, where somebody with a soul can look at you and go, I don't think you're being completely honest.
Right. Yeah, we can sense things that, at least currently, and again, I'm going to phrase it that way, because at least currently, 6 months from now, the answer may be different. But today, AI can't do that yet.
Yeah, well, you look at the algorithms, in marketing, social media, whatever you're doing, that's passively, that we're being passively programmed by. Mm-hmm. And so using our time, talents, and treasures for the kingdom of God, in the kingdom of God, with kingdom people, it's different. That is reinforcing our own algorithms, our own learnings, our own disciplines. It's separate than.
You're more likely to keep on the path when you're with people that are keeping on the path.
Exactly.
It's easier to stay. Think of hiking. Using that as the analogy. If you're hiking by yourself, it is easier to get lost than when there's 2 or 3 of you hiking together. It's the same thing. It's just, we're better together.
What is the level of, when you think about, the people that you've coached that are, let's say, not in fellowship or not involved, who are Christians, who love the Lord, but they're not in fellowship. What is I've kind of lost my question, but what is the level of commitment in their stewardship, I guess? I mean, it doesn't seem very high.
They are going to make slower progress. In general, they tend to, they can still make progress, but it's slower because, again, they're just not surrounded by other people that are kind of on that journey. Now, what I will say is I have seen people get in fellowship where everyone has the exact same kind of problem, and it comes self-reinforcing that way too. So you do have to be careful about who you're in fellowship with, not in a judgy way, but just in if everyone's trying to deal with the exact same problem the exact same way, well, that's it. That's what y'all know how to do. And you need to have something outside come in.
Well, it's fun. It's funny you say that because, Paul, I forget where he said it, but Paul warns to stay away from idle people. Mm-hmm. Men who are just idle. And, in some men's groups are full of just idle men making excuses for their sins and, their behaviors.
Self-reinforcing it.
Yeah. So when you go and you're a part of that, you just feel like, what is this?
It becomes self-reinforcing in a negative way. So again, you've got to examine everything. And I said this earlier, you've always got to be thinking about what you're doing, whether it's with time, money, talents, relationships. I don't care. Is this serving me well? And examining that all the time. Is this really moving me towards what I want in life? Is this really moving me in the direction that God is calling me to go? If the answer is no, well, then you got some work to do.
Yeah. And that's an important question. Is what I'm doing? I like when you talked about wasting time, because you go, well, it's only a waste of time if it's not moving you towards
serving you.
If it's not serving you. Because I have like in my mind, sometimes I'll be working on something that is taking me much longer than I think it should take. Mm-hmm. And then at some point, I think this is taking too long. And I have to decide, I have to believe is this going to end up being fruitful or not?
Is this going to be worth it? Yep.
Is it going to be worth it? Whether or not this belief is true.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think sometimes I'll think, well, I don't think it's going to be fruitful. I'm just wasting time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I scrap it. And in scrapping it, I have essentially wasted that time.
Mm-hmm.
However, had I had the opposite belief in that, nope, this is gonna benefit me, or this is gonna benefit the cause, this is gonna benefit the calling, this is gonna benefit the mission, I'm gonna keep going. Then, I mean, that's essentially redeem the time, of course, assuming it's
wasted.
Yeah, it's not wasted. So it's really tricky. Beliefs are
and knowing the difference between those two things and whether you're right or not is a whole nother level, because there is such thing called the sunk cost fallacy, which is I put time into this, so I need to keep putting time into it because I've already put time into it. And sometimes that's a sunk cost where, no, you've already spent that time. So it isn't wasted. It's just gone, and you need to move on and go do something different. That could be true.
Mm.
Other times you're at the end of that and you're like, this must be a waste because, it's just taking me way too long. But what you are is you're in that dip of effort where you're in that hard part, the valley, and you need to push through, and then it's going to get easier on the other side.
Yeah.
Both of those could be the exact same point in time. And your activity, your response to that is completely different. And so, again, this is where the value of being surrounded by fellowship, coaches, masterminds, other people that your spouse, whatever, that you can go to and you can go, okay, let me tell you what's going on. I need a reality check. But what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Okay. Seems like everyone thinks this is worth it. Let me keep putting time in,
Yeah. Wise counselors, surround yourself with wise counselors, good guys that, because you're going to inevitably, you're going to have the one guy that goes, hey man, I that happens to me all the time. I push through it and it always, and 90% of the time it turns out great.
Right.
And then you're going to get the other guy that goes, oh yeah, I've been there and I always give up and I never accomplish anything in my life.
Right.
You're like,
and you can look up and go, maybe I don't want to give up on this one.
Like, Let's see. Do I want to be the guy that never accomplishes anything, or do I want to be the guy that, it works out for, 80 or 90% of the time?
And a lot of times it works out in a way that you can't predict too. That's the other thing. I've spent time on things that I'm like, oh, this is going to do this. Then I get through it. It's like, oh, that didn't do that, but it taught me this that I needed over here, and I don't see the way those dots are going to connect. I'm not smart enough.
Yeah. And those lessons are valuable if you can accept them, if you can see them like that, because it's, people judge sometimes circumstances or behaviors like that in the same way they value suffering, and they don't see any value in suffering at all. So therefore, why would God do this and why would God do that? And they start complaining about universal, celestial, powerful beings they have no clue about. And they go, why would God, the all-powerful, mighty creator of the universe, who knows the beginning from the end, the end from the beginning,
this happen? Yeah.
Why would he let this happen? You go, you got to trust that has a purpose to it.
A lot of times you don't see that purpose, sometimes even for years. It can be invisible to us and still be real. That's sometimes what it's hard for us to connect the dots looking forward because we don't know the future.
Yeah.
We only connect the dots looking backwards.
So if you had one closing encouragement for the young men listening to this podcast in regards to stewardship, what would it be?
That you can do it. That you can reprogram the way you think about stuff, and stuff there is literally generic on purpose because I don't care what it is, and recognize that you don't own it, but you are responsible for it, and that responsibility carries a certain amount of weight that you need to pick up because you're the only one that can, because it's yours, it's no one else's. And that's not a thing to beat you up. That's not a thing to make you afraid. That's not a thing. You can do it because it's your job. It's what you were made to do.
Yeah.
So go do it. And that's really the win.
That's a good word. Scott Maderer, thank you so much for being here today, man. It was an absolute
If you
pleasure
enjoyed
talking
this
with you. I
show,
hope that we
make
can
sure
do it
to
again soon.
subscribe and leave a review. For more information about Jake, log on to jakegiffin.com and find him on all social media platforms. Until next time, peace and power be yours.